to me, if you do have a product, it should have basically all single standing ingredients. You can eat Parmesan cheese, you can eat eggs, you can eat cauliflower. They're all their own components without a bunch of filler flours or anything else in there. So that was my goal, is we wanted to create a product that we would eat ourselves, be proud to eat, and we wanted that serving of vegetables.
Hey, and welcome to Female Founder World. I'm your host, Jasmine, and today's conversation is with Jeanne David, who is the founder and CEO of Outer Isle. If you're not familiar with the company, they really pioneered that cauliflower-based bread alternative kind of category, which is super mainstream and really well known today, but at the time it was really, really innovative. And the company was also recently named as the fastest growing food company in the US by Inc. magazine, which is pretty impressive. So let's kick off the episode. Thank you so much for joining the show. I was doing quite a bit of research ahead of you jumping on, and I think when I first saw the brand, I kind of was familiar with the product, and then as I dug deeper in, I just didn't realize how big you really are and how much the company has grown. So I think it'd be really helpful for people listening who maybe aren't as familiar with your story, just to tell them what the company is and maybe some milestones that can anchor them and help them understand where you are at the moment in the company.
Okay, yes, I'd love to. Thanks for having me on, by the way. I appreciate that. Always fun to talk about our journey and our story. So we formed the company in 2013, and it was really an outgrowth of our own personal journey, and we made a shift in our diet. We took out all the empty carbs, any really processed food and sugar especially, but all the carbs and all the empty carbs. So we really went to protein, fruits and vegetables only. And after some time of that, it was what it did in our body, and the reset was amazing. And we decided at that time that we wanted to do this for good. We were committed to it because of the clarity in our brain, just the clear energy level all day. We didn't have the blood sugar spikes and the drops, which we didn't understand was producing those prior, but we were very excited to learn along the way the impact on our body internally by having this kind of diet. So we were committed to it. And, but yet it got kind of cumbersome, because we were supposed to be getting 5 servings of vegetables in a day. And while you don't think that that's a whole lot, but if you wake up, grab, an egg for breakfast, and you're used to eating a sandwich for lunch, you get to dinner and you need 5 servings of vegetables, So for us, it was really about getting more vegetables in our daily routine, and not just a protein shake in the morning. So we were really committed to that. And the products were born out of that. Cauliflower pizza crust was just being seen on Pinterest, to give you an idea of where we were in social media. Instagram was not yet, and Facebook had not really taken off. So Pinterest was where this was found. And it became really interesting to me because I love food. Have a background in personal training. I'm from New Orleans. So the combination of loving food and loving it to taste good, and now having the third component of, hey, I want this to fuel my body so that I can be all that I need to be to everybody around me and run the company. Actually, now it's so important, the diet is, to fuel my body and mind. So that's what it was started out of. I took that, I looked at that and I was like, wow, cauliflower pizza crust, that's amazing. But if I could get this in sandwich form, it would be even better, because I was not eating pizzas at all. So that would, I didn't miss that. But I certainly missed, while I didn't miss sandwiches necessarily, I missed the convenience of having something to put something on, that vehicle to throw something on and run out the door, or, just a quick thing. And if that could be vegetables, that would be amazing. So that was the birth of the thought. And I thought at that time, if I could revolutionize the bread industry, that would be amazing, because I had learned some important components of what, the blood sugar is impacted when you eat, bread during your daily diet. People eat bread sometimes 3 times a day, in their meal. And what they don't realize is it spikes the blood sugar. Insulin comes in and you just have that up and down. Then you need more, and 2 hours later, you're looking for something else. So when you eliminate that whole process and keep your blood sugar stable all day long, it's an amazing experience, and it feels so good in your system besides what's going on internally for your body.
That's definitely an approach to food that I personally follow. I'm really interested to know now that you've been growing the company and you're at a much different stage, how many, just to give people an anchor point of where you're at, how many retailers are you available in, or how big is your team?
I think, we have 150 employees. Now, we're a manufacturer. A lot of our counterparts, for one, we're really one of the only companies making true cauliflower sandwich thins and pizza crusts in the way that, to me, the category was designed, because we actually started it, was fresh cauliflower, not dried cauliflower, not rice flour, not the gluten-free, cauliflower crust that has a lot of other filler flours in it that still has all the carbs in it. So I want to differentiate that, because that's a notable difference. So when we decided that we wanted this product on the market and we would be our best consumers, we said, we're going to have to manufacture our product, because nobody was manufacturing with fresh cauliflower. And 150,000 pounds of fresh cauliflower is what, comes in and out of our facility. So it's a whole different sort of manufacturing process that was not being done. But it was part of what we wanted to be part of, was this whole new food movement, right? That is trying to change and get back to our roots of real food, clean ingredients, very basic food. If there's, to me, if you do have a product, it should have basically all single standing ingredients. You can eat Parmesan cheese, you can eat eggs, you can eat cauliflower. They're all their own components without a bunch of filler flours or anything else in there. So that was my goal, is we wanted to create a product that we would eat ourselves, be proud to eat, and we wanted that serving of vegetables. So we wanted to be able to eat a turkey sandwich for lunch, but yet be having turkey and 2 servings of vegetables instead of bread at all. So back to the manufacturing component of it and what we do and why we have to have 150 employees at this phase. We'll probably, that's probably going to remain where we are for this facility. We're building a new plant in Texas to keep up with demand, to help middle of the country distribution and redundancy. So we're super excited about that. But in 2013, we launched officially, really, which was just the paperwork, filing our LLC, getting all of those documents in line to form the base of a solid business. We also did all of our trademarking then, and which was key. Some of those really key things. We did all of our R&D. I sold to an R&D group and got all their feedback. I did that pretty immediately. And in our original line, we had zucchini pasta, cauliflower rice, and another version called squashatoni. So we sold directly to an R&D group. And I would send out an email once a week and say, we're making it, come pick up your order on Tuesday. And I mean, it's really fun to look back and see how that worked. But that allowed us to have some real live, production runs, see about the packaging of the product, because it's very moist. So there's very specific packaging requirements. And all things that weren't being done. So that was 2013. We probably were in R&D and business development to really pencil out the plan for 1.5 years. So I was given the luxury of really just working on this and not having to take a salary. My husband, my kids were out of the house. They were all through college. We didn't have that support. So that's what we decided to do. The agreement we had, see if you figure it out. Let's keep going. The whole process was like, okay, I've got one toe in. I described it as the 10 toes in the water, and then jumping head in over. I'm sure you can appreciate with launching your own thing. Like one week you go, okay, well then maybe we can go to the next step. And, okay, I've got 3 toes in, but you always know you've got to kind of hold it loosely in the beginning, because any one variable or obstacle that comes up, especially in costing it out in supply chain and manufacturing, could be what has you not launch, right? So we were really just taking our time to figure it out. And so we hit market in 2015 officially. We went into 4 Whole Foods stores. The forager at Whole Foods found our product at a local restaurant that had just launched, and they were doing a full gluten-free concept, which was not being done anywhere yet. And so the forager found our product there, contacted me and said, hey, I'd love to see this product on our shelves. I'm like, yay, we'd love to be on your shelf. So we had the luxury of working with her. Again, there was no category. So we'd have these conversations about like, what will this category bear as far as price, SRP, and that, which is always a tedious thing if there's no category and nothing to establish that category. So anyway, we went through that exercise together. She worked hand in hand with me on call outs on our packaging and what she thought was important right now, what the consumers were looking for. So that was amazing. And so that was 2015. And 2016, we got the whole region, the Southern California region. So we spent a year with 4 stores demoing every weekend, getting the pull through at the shelf, which is what they call velocities at shelf, and just introducing it to consumers. I did all of those demos myself pretty much. And so it was great feedback. It was exhausting, right? Because, when you're the founder and you're out there having people taste your product, it's kind of like, it's very personal. It would have been much easier to have somebody else do it. And we did when it worked. But early on, I really felt like the interaction and the feedback was really important. So we were in a region for a year, and then the next year we launched into 3 of Whole Foods region, and then went nationwide and, continued to grow after that. But Whole Foods was our anchor store.
Incredible. And, that's certainly not the story that you hear from most companies in that category. Launching into Whole Foods is an amazing testament to how I think you really had your finger on the pulse of what was coming next, and how innovative you must have been within the product category at that time. So I think what's really interesting is when you say we, at least in the early days, talking about your family, and a lot of your family works in the company now. Can you tell us how that is structured and how that works?
We had 4 boys. They were all in their career paths at that point, or all at least out of college. And all of them were pretty much in their career paths, but well on their way doing something else. And so we launched it as our family project because I wanted to bring them in on it. I thought it would be really an amazing project for all of us to learn from. Let's see what it takes to bring a product from concept to market. And I knew that they would all, they're all similar, entrepreneurial, and obviously we grew up with kind of that mentality. So I thought that they would like it. We'd schedule a conference call every Thursday, and we'd meet. We'd talk about really it was all about product development and R&D at that point, because it was about the nutrition panel and what it looked like, how much fat, how much protein, and just continuing to tweak it. So I was doing all of the product development myself, and it probably took me 70. I know I could count 70 iterations, and I'm sure by now it's probably over 80 iterations of the recipe to get it to where it is today, and which we feel like is a really solid formula of clean ingredients. And, the ingredients that I would put in my body, the reason we chose Parmesan cheese is because it's fermented, and the bacteria in that process eats the lactose. So it's very interesting how, and besides, it's a really tasty cheese. It has a unique taste to it. So all of those components were in all of our discussions, and that's kind of how we started it. And once we got the region of Whole Foods, our youngest son lived in town. Nobody else lived in town. They're all over the country. So our youngest son was living in Santa Barbara at the time. He was doing real estate with a real estate group, and he was early on hands-on at that point, like in our kitchen, in our little oven, doing our R&D once a week, like making it. And I mean, we're literally hand making it, hand patting it. We burn out the heating element on the stove, on the oven. It finally burned out. And one of the hinges broke from opening and closing it so much, you know? So those were the early days. And it was fun to bring them in on it. And they, you know, we gave them like shares of the company early on to kind of keep them interested in it. And so that was, you know, something we just felt like would be amazing to do. And we didn't know at that point if it would turn out to be, you know, what was going to happen. I mean, we were all in this adventure together. Let's see what it takes. And let's, you know, and at one point we're like, okay, failure's not an option. This is what's happening. And we're going to do this, you know, but yeah.
And once you realized it was full steam ahead and this was something that really had legs, how did you go from, you know, coming up with formulas in your home kitchen to finding a way to manufacture this in scale? Like, how did that process come about?
Step by step, as we all know, one step at a time. We went to renting out a shared kitchen, like space in a commercial kitchen. That was our first step. And then we moved to a bigger shared kitchen that would all afford us the space we needed where we were in growth. So once we got the whole region of Whole Foods, which was like 54 stores, and we thought that was so huge. And it was compared to where we were, but that's when we took the step to then go into our own manufacturing plant on our own because we needed the space to grow. So yeah, just taking it one step at a time. It's kind of hard because you have to take giant steps because moving into a place that's really 6 months or a year decision out, you know, like you don't just go, oh yeah, we need a place. Let's go find one and move in tomorrow. No, it's a 6 months to a year process. So every big step like that feels like, oh, this is a huge step. It feels a little bit bigger than we think we need, but inevitably by the time that actually gets in play, it's exactly what you need. So when we were building out our current plant in Ventura, we had been in a plant of 5,000 square foot plant in Goleta, and taking the step to do this 37,000 square foot facility felt like huge, but we knew with what we had, the demand that was happening and what we had in our pipeline, that we had to take the step. And so a year ahead of time, we put the pieces in place to do that and build out this facility.
At what stage did the website come into play? Were you selling online from the beginning, or did that happen after the Whole Foods partnership? When did that come into play?
It's kind of interesting. It was a little still out there. You know, e-commerce was what it is today for sure. It was in 2017. We had a few regions of Whole Foods, mostly because then social media begins to pick up. You know, demos in the grocery stores used to be the way we got our product in people's hands. Now we know it's all about social media, influencers, and all of that. It's totally changed. So this was before any of that really came into play. And it was more of a need for if we were on social media, people had to have access to the products. And so that's what drove our online was, okay, we've got to be able to do it. It's very cumbersome because we're a refrigerated product. So we really thought it was just kind of a necessary evil is how we looked at it back then. And now, of course, you know, direct to consumers, we do a ton of direct to consumer business, and We do all of our own shipping. We don't do fulfilled by anyone else because it allows us to we feel like we've got the best feel for what's going on quality-wise with our product and with direct communication with our customers.
And what advice do you have for someone who is a few years behind you in this process and has an idea for a product that doesn't exist? They really want to innovate in a category. What advice would you have for them?
I would say go for it. I would say create an R&D group, and I guess R&D just is research and development for those who don't know that term. But anyway, just create a group of your friends and colleagues that you can sell directly to so that you can get their feedback, which is invaluable because market feedback is so critical. And especially like for us, there was no market category. There was no product like this out there. So who do we even compare ourselves to? To compare yourselves to bread when there's billions, but that's really now we have created that category. Yeah. So I'd say R&D directly start selling the product and figuring out how to manufacture it, or a lot of people co-pack and get co-manufacturers.
Incredible. And are there any specific resources that you think have helped you along, your different phases of running a company, whether it's a book, a podcast that you listen to, anything that you've kind of turned to keep your learning going?
I would say we definitely have an environment of always learning and growing and really Dare to Lead by Brené Brown is a great book because it's talking about those bold, transparent conversations.
That's a great one.
Yeah. So every year our executive team kind of takes a book in the beginning of the year and we kind of follow it through for the year and put the principles of it into work. So this year, our book that we're reading is Extreme Ownership, which is actually a really great book for where we are in our growth trajectory, because at this point, we need every department to extremely own their department. I'm not micromanaging any of that. They need to be fully in charge of what's going on in all of their departments. And so when you have extreme ownership and you have those principles, it's an amazing organizational concept that helps cut down on the dysfunction, and micromanaging and all of that. And it empowers people to grow. And so that's what, we're really into. We have a great team around us. We know that we're only as good as the team that surrounds us. So for me, it's always about me personally growing and getting better at what I do so that I can always be pouring into my executive team to give them what they need to then pour into their teams. And leadership, servant leadership definitely is our model. We love to live by that and serving others. And really we follow that through in most all that we do. Of course, our mission and our products being the top of that. But we love to ask our people when they come in, what are their dreams? What would they love to do, and help us find that. And we'll put you in that place and constantly checking in. Are you sure, is this a good fit for you? Or are you finding something that you'd rather do, because there's lots of room for growth here. So I would say Dare to Lead and Extreme Ownership over the past 2 years have been really great books. And we've done some other ones early on, but those two have been pretty profound.
And that leads me really nicely into my last question, which is how has your day-to-day responsibilities and tasks changed as the company has grown over the last couple of years? Like, what does a day look like now compared to maybe 2 years ago? And how is that different?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it really, it's a very interesting journey along the way. I mean, in the beginning of the journey, I was on production line. I was making sure everything was absolutely, impeccable in production and making sure I understood all the anomalies that could happen in production. And then there was a point where our son stepped in as COO of operations. He decided to come join our team full time. And he was just like, we've got to get you out of kitchen. The company's not going to grow with you being in production, And so that changed, obviously. And I really was holding down sales. I'm definitely sales, definitely love the marketing component of that as well. The face of the company, R&D. But then as the company grew and we could afford to have the team that we needed to drive each department, my role really became being the best CEO I could be to them. And that is a whole different job, of coaching has become a huge component of that, because I've realized that all we know is what we know, and the perspective we have is our perspective. If you don't have a third party coming in and helping you with feedback or observing dynamics, you tend to get stuck in all of those things. So coaching has been huge, and we've really brought that in over the last 2 years. So I'm doing personal coaching with a great group that does some leadership coaching. And then we've got a bigger coach that coaches, is there for our operations teams, because we're in a hyper growth environment. I mean, our company really looks different every 3 months. And so if you're not really keeping in tune with that growth and what's going on in the team around you, it's absolutely a train wreck waiting to happen. So really understanding and always having a pulse on what's going on in the dynamics, because where we are in our growth trajectory, most of our executive team has not been at that level of revenue. But even that level of revenue doesn't mean the same thing for a different company, for company to company. I mean, it really is every experience with a business is usually your first experience with, that category. That, I mean, there's some people that are very steeped in CPG and have grown something very similar, but being a manufacturer and producing our own is a big component of that puzzle, so it's always keeping abreast of what's going on with your team and hearing what they say, trying to get their pain points, trying to get solutions in place, and always just being willing to pour back into them and give them some leadership coaching as well that elevates them and allows them to grow as well. So you're not the only one. It's everybody around you is in this whole pattern of, oh, wow, I didn't understand that that's how, the dynamics that go back and forth because the personality differences, so helping everybody, giving people coaching in that regard so that they feel it's kind of something that they can always use no matter what company they go into, but teaching them about who they really are and how they work best and how they bring that to the team. What's their gold? What's their kryptonite? What do they do? How do they act when they go to stress? So that's really a lot of what we're doing this year with our team, is really pouring into them at a higher level so that they can continue to grow and expand as the company expands.
And just based on that answer, I'm going to sneak in one more question. Seeing as though you were close to marketing and sales, what do you think is really pushing the needle at the moment in marketing and sales, and how has that changed as well over the last couple of years?
What is pushing the needle in marketing and sales?
Yeah, what's really working?
I would say, I guess you mean specifically for our product. You're not talking about like how we do what we do. You're just talking about what's the demand out there for our product, correct?
Sure.
Is that what you're referring to? Yeah. So really, for me, when we came up with this product, we believed the overarching trend was going to be low glycemic because of the upcoming diabetes epidemic. And that's what we're beginning to see. So we were early. The gluten-free movement happened, and that's all great and good because gluten-free is at least cleaner products, right? And not the gluten. But what we saw after that was the paleo, which was good because it was good, clean food. And then keto came in, which keto helped define the category because it had consumers look at the carbs in products, the nutrition panel that they had forgotten about. Just because it said cauliflower, they thought it was good for you, So keto kind of ushered in a delineating factor that really help define our market. And so we believe that is just the beginning of the low glycemic. We believe the low glycemic is going to be the overarching umbrella, and there'll be these food groups that come and go, or food trends that come and go, or diet trends that come and go underneath that. But for the health of our country, and because diabetes is going to be such an epidemic, people are going to have to go to food to control that, because type 2, as we know, can be totally impacted with food and diet.
Sure. That does make sense.
So that continues to move the needle for us.
Okay. And that's definitely like the trend that you think is the one that's kind of coming in, which is this low GI or low glycemic index. Is that the same thing, low GI?
Probably, I don't know, because GI can be your gastrointestinal tract too. So I would say low glycemic is, it's, and you're seeing that. You're seeing the emergence of these low sugar, no sugar, Hu, chocolate, Chalk Zero, all of these brands that are doing what we know is best for our bodies by eliminating the sugar, but because of the blood sugar issue, and then the metabolic response to that, and the inflammation that then is also involved in that or caused by that.
How do you continue to stay a leader in this category as it continues to get more crowded?
I would say we just focus on what we do. We kind of, we pull data and we know exactly where we stand in the category, but we just keep doing what we know our customers love about our product. And we kind of keep our head down and just keep doing that. That's, and focus on that. And because there's a lot of low glycemic or keto products coming out, but none of them are clean, and none of them are vegetables. And for us, it's always about making sure it's about getting more vegetables in your diet. It's that you're eating vegetables when you're eating our product, not bread at all. So just continuing to define our niche.
Thank you so much for coming on the show and for all of that advice. I really appreciate your time, and I just know there are so many learnings that people listening are going to take from that conversation. So thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure chatting with you today.
It's Jasmine again, just popping in your ears to say, please leave a 5-star review if you enjoyed this episode. It helps other people find the show, and it's also really important for us to be able to get these really great guests that you've been listening to so far. So see you at the next episode.